Welcome, George here, and today I'm going to talk about the book Perchance to Dream, Selected Stories by Charles Beaumont. Now, the main reason why I checked this book out is because I am a huge fan of The Twilight Zone. It's one of my all-time favorite shows. I've been watching it since I was a kid, and I really enjoy it. Now, as we know, Rod Serling was the creator of The Twilight Zone, and he was the head writer and the main creative force behind it. But he couldn't write everything. He had to have other co-writers come in and help take care of some of the work on that show. And this would be people like George Clayton Johnson, Richard Matheson, and another writer he brought in was Charles Beaumont. Now, an interesting thing about Beaumont is that he wrote the most amount of episodes of anyone other than Serling. I think he's credited with something like near 20 episodes, and a lot of them are really good. One that springs to mind is one of my all-time favorites. It's an episode called Living Doll. And I don't know if you remember that one. It had Telly Savalas in it, and it's about the doll that kind of comes to life and gives him a hard time. I'm Talkie Tina, and I don't like you very much. That was Charles Beaumont who did that one. It was a really great episode. So when I found this book, I was really excited because, again, I've watched all the episodes, I've seen them many times, and so this was almost like finding something new in that vein that I didn't know existed. The stories in this book are a great mixture of things that are in very much the tone of the Twilight Zone. You got elements of sci-fi, you got elements of fantasy, of dark suspense, psychological suspense, a little bit of horror. Everything you like from the Twilight Zone genre is in this book, and I was really excited to have that. There are 5 stories in this book that were made into Twilight Zone episodes. And so what you're going to get is a little bit more of a richer experience by reading this, because as great as the show was, it was limited by things like budget and time and what they can do on a half an hour TV show. But the story can do whatever it wants, and so it gives us a little bit more of that. And so I'll give you a little bit of an example of that. One story in this book is called The Jungle, and they made an episode about that. So in the episode of the show, there was a character, and as the show opens, he's back in New York, and he had been in Africa, and he was doing some kind of drilling for fossil fuels, and the indigenous people of the area didn't like that, so they put a curse on him. And then the guy comes back to New York, and as the episode opens, we learn that he's done this, and he doesn't believe that the curse is real. He thinks it's a bunch of hooey. But then as the episode unfolds, we find out that the curse is real. And that's what drives the interesting part of that episode. Well, when you read the story version, it goes even deeper than that. It's a lot more interesting. I'll give you a little bit of rundown of that. In the story that you read, this character is not back in New York. He's actually in Africa. And it's more than just that he dug for fossil fuels. It's actually set in this dystopian future world where the population has gone out of control. So this guy goes to this jungle area in Africa, and he levels it and turns it into a city to help put 500,000 people in and help with the overpopulation problem. And the natives and the indigenous people there don't like that so much that they go to war with this guy and his corporation, and they slaughter the indigenous people, and it's real dark and dense like that. And that's when they put the curse on the guy. Because this wasn't limited to things like budget and time and that sort of thing, it was able to delve into a really deep, rich way of telling that similar story. So if you're interested at all in the Twilight Zone, I highly recommend checking out this book. Like I said, there are 5 stories in here that were made into episodes, and so you can compare watching the episode and reading the story and compare notes on that and see how the story is able to bring it into an even more richer life than the show could. And again, you get 18 other stories that weren't made into episodes, so they would be new and fresh to you. Again, the book is called Perchance to Dream, Selected Stories by Charles Beaumont. It's a classic. If you're a Twilight Zone fan, I highly recommend it. And if you're not even a Twilight Zone fan, but you like dark suspense and sci-fi and things of that nature, definitely give it a chance. I think you will enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in, and until the next time, have a good one.